Friends, let's take a look at the key moment of this July, the date of the full moon, which takes place in the sign of Capricorn from the 10th to the 11th. This particular date can really significantly change a great deal in terms of tangible material possessions, financial resources, and professional work. If during the entire year 2025 many planets begin their new cycles and a new era is born, but while it is being born, excuse me, I need to eat something. Excuse me, I need to live on something. Triple. As in the context of the COVID 2020, there was also a big paradigm shift there. There was this whole thing about having to get on a new track, but for some people it knocked them out for a week, for others a month, some for half a year, and some for a whole year. Attempts to find new work, all sorts of upheavals, trying out new directions and so on. All of this takes, well, time and some resources, and maybe even a financial safety cushion. It's not always there. And basically, now, during this full moon, we're going to talk about some fundamental guarantees of stability, so that in this era of change, there's enough stability and enough of a foundation to adapt to these new realities. Why am I even bringing this up right now? Because this full moon is happening, on the one hand, in the material sign of Capricorn, which is associated with money, ambitions, career, achievement, climbing the career ladder, and success. But it's also happening under the strong influence of the node of the past. In other words, it's saying that there are material realities, ambitions, a willingness to work, but all according to old, familiar patterns, where maybe I've been around the block, I know everything, I understand it all. Basically, from start to finish, there's nothing new there. Boring, boring, boring. But this is a material full moon, it's a financial influence. And it basically means that while you're trying to navigate these new realities, you have some kind of anchor from the past. You have some project, some task, some old job that, during this period of transformation and turbulence, can become your foundation, your source of calm and confidence. For some people, this could even be other people. So during this full moon, someone might come into your life who embodies these guarantees, who represents that Atlas figure holding up the sky on his shoulders. For others, it might be a story of returning to an old employer, to an old job, yeah? With the node of the past involved, it's probably going to be boring. In terms of the past, this may be a feeling that there is no point of development there, but there is some kind of ground under your feet, some kind of stability. Banal, stupidly simple, that's it. AAA. Therefore, this date may turn out to be one of the key dates for the entire year 2025 for many. AAA. Because we actually have some strong inclusions of the earth element here. The first was an eclipse in March in the sign of Virgo, but it probably didn't play out very strongly there. And the second point is now, midsummer, July 10th, and there will be another important key eclipse in Virgo, September 23rd, I think, at the end of the year, or in the fall. And there too, it will be about the fact that there is a foundation, there is a base. Yes, you know it. Yes, it might be boring, but it gives you a point of support. And within this full moon, I'll now briefly go over all 12 zodiac signs. I'll talk about them briefly, but I've already done a detailed analysis of this event. And in the yearly forecasts, you'll find the link below. There are literally 3 to 5, maybe 10 minutes about this event. I also did an analysis of this event in the monthly forecasts. So, if you need detailed information specifically for your zodiac sign, you'll find references below the video to different sections of my already completed forecasts. And here, I'll just quickly go over it and share my comments while it's still fresh. I also invite you to join my private Telegram channel. There, we discuss current topics and what's happening. There's early access available there. Sometimes, videos are available a week or even 2 before they're published on YouTube. Sometimes it's a day early, sometimes two, sometimes even more. Also, in the private Telegram channel, you have the opportunity to get a personal forecast based on your date of birth, with interpretations tailored specifically for you, because I have free calculation pages where general events are shown, and the only personal aspect is an index, the number of stars from 1 to 5, indicating how much the event affects you personally. But in our private group, you get a personal forecast, events that specifically relate to your chart. And there you have the option. We've now added forecasts for within the day, for the week, for the month, and for the year. And recently, we've launched forecasts for the entire decade. You can see in which house and in what aspects the planet has been over the past 10 years, and where it will be in the next 10 years. If you want to know in how many years, say, Pluto will leave one house and move into another, you can find that out there. All these major cycles are now also available in our private Telegram channel. Join us. Now, let me tell you a bit more about this full moon. An important aspect of this full moon, besides the fact that it comes under the node of the past with a powerful influence, and can bring people from your past, is that it can also symbolize a male collective. Actually, the node of the past was quite prominent in the first days of July, but at that time it was being aspected by Venus, the planet of love. So, at the end of June and the beginning of July, people connected to Venus could have come back into your life through the node of the past, as if echoes of old, long-gone romantic realities were resurfacing. Or, in that period, the node of the past could have brought up themes of a women's gathering or a female community. Now, the node of the past is being activated and, in fact, will continue to gain momentum towards the end of July. So, the trend that this full moon is setting in motion right now will be very powerful and effective throughout the second half of the month. And now, within this trend, the node of the past is joining with Mars. This brings up the theme of male groups, which could also become apparent right here, within the context of this full moon. And the theme of uniting a male community or men from the past will also be very clearly felt here, coming up on all sorts of fronts. It will feel just like the Three Musketeers, 30 years later. That kind of vibe will be present here. It's a sense of déjà vu, as if you've seen this somewhere before, it's familiar to you, and that feeling will be strongly represented here. At the same time, this is about the material, about money, about the realities that provide a foundation to stand on. An important part of this whole process is also Mars, which is very active during this full moon. And right now, Mars is in the sign of Virgo, the sign of intellectual work. And this full moon may bring you back to some old intellectual activity, work, certain projects, or tasks that you have already dealt with before, have worked on, or figured out in the past. That's why a return to very serious, active intellectual work is also possible here. Although the full moon itself, in general, also brings the theme that I eagerly and gladly engage in intellectual tasks, even those that used to be difficult for me. But here, my mind is able to handle huge amounts of data, make sense of complex information, dig into mysteries and puzzles, analyze and piece everything together, and draw conclusions. This really is hard work, breaking a sweat, but with enthusiasm. This is the influence of Mars, and here I'd like to comment on some phrases by Leo Tolstoy. He once remarked that when you go out into the field, work well with a scythe, and come back, the writing just flows easily. This is exactly the kind of combination that is characteristic of the Virgo sign. They willingly take on physical exertion, and this, in turn, stimulates strong intellectual activity and productivity. So, if you can, during these full moon dates, pay special attention to sports, your physical condition, and your health. This will also make it more fun and easier to think clearly. And in general, the topic of physical activity is really cool during this full moon, especially considering there's a whole community of sporty people here. In short, there's some serious action going on here. Yeah, let's break it down by zodiac signs. I'll go over how and what each sign can expect from this full moon, and what stories are in store for everyone. I think I've covered everything important. Well, maybe I'll throw in a couple more thoughts. This is about workers who get the job done efficiently, who really own their work. Basically, this is a full moon of loving your work, as silly as that might sound. And also, cynicism, cold-bloodedness, and rationality are really important during this full moon. It's not about coddling or emotional empathy. Here, as soon as you enter this full moon, it's like the motto is Arbeit, everyone get to work. Although, in reality, a full moon is always about something else. It's about dropping some of that serious outlook on life and just doing something for the fun of it. But here, under the full moon in Capricorn, I actually feel like doing some work-related things, and they just happen naturally, effortlessly. An important part of the process is tied to the full moon is naturalness. It's not like I'm forcing myself, or pushing myself, or making myself do it. No, it just sort of comes together on its own. Like you take care of some things here, handle some tasks there, resolve a serious issue over here, revisit an old project, and everything just kind of happens by itself. You don't need to force yourself, push yourself, or rush. During the full moon, everything happens spontaneously and naturally. That's it. Now, let's break down the zodiac signs. What thoughts can we add for Aries? First of all, this full moon amplifies your sign. You're full of energy to tackle major intellectual work and your career and projects. All of that is on the rise. In short, it's a powerful breakthrough moment for your career. For Taurus, this full moon is strongly connected to the node of the past, to returning to some old environment, old circle, and maybe even an old male group or community. And good work. No, effective and productive activity. For Gemini, the full moon plays an interesting role. On the one hand, yes, there's this theme of brain-busting challenges from many serious, strong intellectual people, tasks, and processes. But on the other hand, Venus, the planet of love, is in your sign, and intelligence is in demand with the opposite sex. Being intellectual, smart, or showing off your expertise also brings popularity in some romantic scenarios. So here it turns out that, on the one hand, during this full moon you can really show yourself as a professional, make a great impression, and on the other hand, you can also make the audience or other people fall for you. Especially if you're playing the role of a teacher or are in the spotlight. Venus gives you this social magnetism that draws people to you. And these energies of intense intellectual work that are happening here bring a lot of professionals and smart people into your circle. For the Cancer sign, this full moon is especially important because you can find key people who can serve as pillars, fundamentally significant for your reality, helping your world maintain its peace, stability, and confidence. Yes, there is a note of the past here, as if these are people you've known before, people you've crossed paths with in the past. In other words, there's a sense of déjà vu here. Familiar faces appear on the horizon, but at the same time, among these familiar faces, there may be a point of support and a sense of confidence that comes with it. Maybe an old boss will invite you to join their company, or you'll be offered to take part in some old, long-standing activity. It could also be that an issue related to an old property, or a large sum of money from the past will come up here as well. For the Leo sign, in the coming week, the full moon will really shift your focus to rational financial and material matters, pulling your attention away from emotions and personal moments toward the need to deal with material issues. Organize your finances, business, bring order, and create a system in your work affairs. That's really what it's mostly about. Leos can get a lot of support during this full moon from people of Earth signs. Yeah, that's probably it. All things considered for now. For Virgos, the full moon is especially significant. First of all, it resonates with Mars, which is currently in your sign. It also resonates with the node of the past, which is in your sign. So, you could say that this full moon in Virgo is, in the sense that you have complete control, you're managing the processes, and you're given some key leadership role. Your head is buzzing with ideas, thoughts, and insights. You're energized, you're lively. Your mind is tearing through any discussions or negotiations. Everything comes together easily, just like that. Life is buzzing, boiling over, and it's impossible to sleep for 3 days. On the 9th, 10th, and 11th, you might as well not even go to bed. Your energy will just be overflowing like a fountain. That's it. An important part here is that if you can collaborate with a community, or some kind of group, maybe for work goals, maybe a men's community, maybe a group of smart people or businessmen, but in any case, people with really strong minds, and you find them interesting. And collaborating, joining in, participating in some kind of community is one of the tools for personal success and growth during this full moon. For the Libra sign, this full moon gives more strength to find. It gives more opportunity to find strong partners who are hardworking, effective, deliver good results, with whom you can get things done, build a house together, and who are smart and persistent in achieving their goals. It could be about working with a team, maybe even a male group, with people you can tackle a serious task together with. That's what this is about. For Scorpios, this is a time when it's very important to get things in order in your affairs, your accounting, your reports, not in your personal life. This full moon isn't about love and romance, not about emotions, but about how to think clearly, logically, and structure things. There will be a lot of mind-blowing moments, a lot of tasks, a lot of unresolved issues, and a lot of questions that this full moon brings up. But at the same time, along with all this mental activity, answers, clarity, and structure also come. You just need to hang in there and really put your mind to it. For the sign of Sagittarius, this full moon could be called the full moon of chess players, of people who are strong in their planning, their structure, and their systematic approach. It's an opportunity to analyze your business very thoroughly and in detail, to break things down and see what's what. It's not about emotions or the joys of life, but about intellectual drive and adrenaline. It's about those moments when your brain is buzzing with excitement because some problem has caught your attention and you need to figure out how to solve it. And actually, it can also point to a number of conflict areas. But most importantly, it gives you a lot of energy to tackle these issues, and it can really pay off financially if you put in the effort and don't get lazy. This is a very important full moon for Capricorns. It's happening in your sign, and here, you're the kings of the space. Everything depends on your will. You're the one directing most of the processes. You might be in such a mood that you don't sleep for 3 days straight. Your energy is basically off the charts. And most importantly, you're the boss here, the main manager of everything that's happening. It's all you. So gather people around you, build a team, take on a serious task. It's very easy to make progress in just a few days in any direction. For the sign Aquarius, Again, let me clarify that you can find a detailed breakdown by zodiac sign at the link in the description. There's already an analysis of this event there. Right now, I'll just give a quick overview. So, for Aquarians, the full moon in Capricorn is a time to shift your focus a bit away from partnerships, relationships, and emotions, and pay more attention to financial matters. Where to get money, where to find some kind of support, maybe in some old work environment, or in some old collaborations, partnerships, alliances. Perhaps a male community could be a significant support during the days of this full moon. For the sign Pisces, this full moon can be either very challenging or, in principle, quite favorable. Here, basically, the situation depends on what kind of people are around you, because this full moon feels like a full moon of strong people, stubborn, with an iron grip, who can be your helpers and partners, but who can also be your opponents and sources of conflict, the ones you find yourself struggling against. There's no point in fighting them. Let me clarify that right away. But if you find a partner here, a person who has a very clear, smart, and sharp perspective on, say, earnings or the financial side of things, a partner who can bring some points of guarantee and confidence into your life, and in general become a solid support, then that's what this is about. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Have a great full moon.